Hello everyone, it's 2009 here, and welcome to a video that's been on the list for a little while now, and that is the evolution of Thomas diecast ranges. Just before this video begins, this will not include Japanese ranges because Japan did completely their own thing for diecast Thomas. Also in this video, I'll be sharing my first experience of each of these ranges. So with that out of the way, let's begin. The first diecast Thomas item came out the same year the show started in 1984. Being a Thomas toy from Ertl. These earlier toys all had paper faces, which were not very durable. I don't actually own any of these earlier paper face engines, but not that many were made. Ertl continued to make these engines throughout the 80s, and in 1990 they were redesigned to have much more durable 3D plastic faces. I have quite a lot of these. The first one I got was Coldy, when I was going through a massive Coldy phase when I was 7. I received a new in-box Ertl Coldy for Christmas that year. It was strange how the cut was different from all of my other Thomas toys, but I was just really happy to have Coldy. Ertl continued to make Thomas toys until 2001 worldwide and 2004 in the UK. The UK's exclusive Ertls are now quite rare. I have a Neil and a Falcon at the moment. In 2002 the Takealong range was launched in the US and went worldwide in 2005, replacing the Ertl range. This range was quite different. The engines all being a lot smaller and now having magnet couplers instead of the plastic ones that Ertl had. My first exposure to the Takealong range was at my first primary school, when I was in reception, which I think is the equivalent of grade 1 if you're in the US. On the floor in the playground I found a Takealong Thomas. It might have been the paint splatter variant, I can't quite remember, it was like 10 years ago now. This toy would have been from the preschool, which is from the next room along. The main thing that interested me was that the number on Thomas's side was a lot bigger than the one on my Take and Play that I had at home. Because at this time I didn't know there were different ranges, I didn't actually know anything about this. The first Takealong item I actually owned was a Mighty Mac. I didn't notice any difference here, although I did notice that the year on the bottom was 2006, when all of the other ones at that point that I had either said 2009 or 2012. This range was also the first to have talking engines, however I don't have any. In 2009 the range was replaced by the Take and Play range, which launched in 2010. These engines were very similar but had a few differences in detail. The biggest difference is now the face much more closely resemble the faces of the engines in the TV show. The first of this range that I actually got were my first ever Thomas toys, which I somehow vaguely remember getting, even though I wouldn't have been any older than 2 at the time. It was a 3-pack of Thomas, Percy and Rosie. This range also had its own talking engines, although I still don't have any. In 2012, the Take and Play range went for a few changes. Now the engine's faces now resembled how they looked in the CGI series, and they look fantastic. The wheels were built differently to prevent the problem with the older wheels that often cracked. I've been quite lucky with mine, and only 2 of my engines have cracked wheels, but luckily not badly at all. The way the engines were built also changed slightly, explaining the red thing on the back of them. This range launched in 2013 and again had a collection of talking engines. I still don't have any though. My first exposure to this line was at one of my friends' houses, before every single one of my friends grew out of Thomas. I remember being interested in the red thing on the back of Thomas. The first item from the 2013 Take and Play range that I owned was the Adventure Castle set, which my mum bought me with a Stephen and Millie to go with it. In 2013 the Take and Play range for some reason was redesigned again, now with round magnets which only couple one way instead of 2, and the engines are all really squished so the cabs are no longer see-through. The range yet again had its own collection of talking engines, but this time I actually own one. I have a talking Ferdinand. This range launched in 2014. My first exposure to this range was when my parents gave me the Take and Play Gator for my Easter present one year. I was very interested in the new magnets because I knew this was Take and Play, but the magnets were wooden railway style. I tested Gator with my wooden railway Ari and Bert, but the magnets connected in the opposite direction. Now there's a story I have about an item from this range, and I think it's a good video to share it with you. So I was in a W.H. Smith one day, and I found a Take and Play Timothy. However, I didn't have any money, and didn't know how long this would be on the shelf for. So I hid it underneath the shelving unit. A few months later, after my birthday when I had some money, I went back to the place, and I was right, there was no Thomas items there. And I checked under the shelf, and Timothy was still there. The person at the checkout was very surprised to see it, although it was fine, I got it. And that's the story. In late 2016, Take and Play was cancelled and replaced with Thomas Adventures. This range was pretty much the same. but with plastic couplers instead of the big magnets. This line was pretty much the same as the collectible railway range, released in some other countries instead of the 2014 range, but just with a few changes. My first exposure to this line was in a toy shop, where I saw 3 items that interested me. LBSC Thomas, a cool variant of Thomas from one of my favourite Thomas films, Henrietta, Toby's coach, now with a face, and Hugo, anyone else remember Hugo? An engine which I'd never heard of at this point. So who did I go with? Why, Hugo, of course. Over time I got the other 2. The first ones of new plastic couplers I got was this Diesel Works pack, which I just wanted for Den and Dart. I preferred magnets, but I think these couplers are pretty good actually. I can connect my Ertl Toby and my Adventures Henrietta. This was the final range to have a collection of talking engines, and again I actually own one. I have a talking Winston. In December 2018, Thomas Adventures was cancelled and in 2019 replaced by the Trackmaster Push-Along range, which are designed to fit on Trackmaster track and connect up the Trackmaster engine, explaining the Trackmaster couplers. The engines were all very badly squished, and the tender engines looked a bit weird. And Toby, never mind. The first items I got were a Kevin, because I just really wanted a Kevin at that point, and there was some deal in the toy shop I was in, so I also got a Rosie, because this one was in her new red livery. Thanks, Grandma. This range was discontinued in 2021, and was replaced by All Engines Go items. This range was called the 2021 Metal Collection, or just Push Along. I don't own any of these because I'm not an All Engines Go person, but I must say, these are really accurate. That's one of the only positive things you'll hear me say about All Engines Go. This range was cancelled this year, and replaced by the 2025 Metal Collection, which will come out some point in the summer. At first I wasn't too sure, but now I think these are absolutely incredible. There's so much detail here. I wasn't sure if I'd get one of these until I saw the storybook Thomas. The face and the paintwork are based off how Thomas looked in the Railway series, and even the packaging is amazing. If there is anything I'm going to get from the 80th anniversary, then it will be this. And as for the making of this video, that is everything. As for my favourite range, I said this in my Q&A video, but I often switch between Takealong and the 2010 Take and Play. I would say 2010 Take and Play at the moment, but this will probably change back to Takealong in a few weeks. And at some point, I'll make videos about the wooden and motorised ranges. And with that, I want to thank all of you for watching, see you in the next video, and goodbye for now.